right, so I have the extraordinary task to try to teach you guys Access in an hour. We usually spend about a month in class on this to start with. I'm going to just show you the basics. And warning, now that I've shown you this, you're probably going to be bored as hell in class, because then you'll know a lot of the stuff beforehand. So you'll just have to bear with it in class then. Okay, so, but that'll be nice, because then you'll know everything already, and you'll catch on in class like crazy fast, and you'll be able to help everyone else. Okay, is everyone logged in and ready? What's wrong there, Jean-Pierre? Just restart. Okay. All right, I'm going to demo for you, and I'm going to try to explain this as easy to understand as possible. Right. JP, just tell me when it's restarted, and then I can demo on yours as well. Okay. All right, so Access is a program that is actually made for much larger data sets. Okay. Let's see why this one is not working. Okay, there you go. Access is a program that's made for much larger data sets, and a lot of people actually in their businesses and things, they use Excel just because they don't know Access, but Access is actually a much better program suited for many businesses. Okay, things like, let's say for example, my mom-in-law used to work at a fruit factory where they would receive stock of different producers of fruit, and they would make juice and things from that. And then every day, 3 or 4 or 5 different producers would come in with a truck, and then they would weigh that truck, and they would say what type of fruit that is, and how much spillage there was, things like that. And they used to capture all of that, and they still do, in Excel. Okay, and there's only so much you can do with that kind of data in Excel. If you actually capture that in Access, you have so much more capability because it's actually made for this kind of thing. All right, so I'm just going to try to explain to you the basics. Access has different objects. Okay, now at the moment we're only seeing a table because this database only has a table at the moment. You guys only need to know for the Olympiad's purpose a table and a query. Now, a query almost functions like a filter, like we've been doing up to now in Excel. There are two things that a query does better than a filter. The first thing is it gets saved permanently. It doesn't delete once you've closed your file. And secondly, you can do more advanced filters. So we can actually do that in Excel as well, where you do advanced filters, but a query is just more suited to that. Right, so a query is to extract information. I'm going to open that table to get us started. All right, so a table looks very similar to an Excel spreadsheet in the sense that it also has columns and rows. You'll just see it's not labeled the same. It's not labeled with A, B, C. It's actually labeled with the heading already. All right. And it's not labeled with numbers here at all. So this is where the words, we use different words for it. We actually refer to these columns as fields. So I'll talk about the gender field, and I'll talk about the net worth field. Okay? And you'll have seen this almost when we did the pivot table. You actually had to pull in the net worth column or this column. So you're actually working with a field of data. All right? And I already referred to these as records in Excel already. And that's actually what they are called from Access. So these are called records. You can see in Access, you already have a summary at the bottom. It tells me how many records there are in total, and it tells me on which one I am. I'm on record 18. I can find information quickly by pressing in the search button, in the search box over there. I can just start typing and find out Who is it whose surname is Ackerman? He takes part in a triathlon. Okay, so I could search like that. That's very quick. That's a quick way to find information. So typically the first question in the database question is often just how many records are there in this table. And then you just literally go and open it and you read the answer from the bottom of the tab over there. And then they'll sometimes ask things like, what is Evan Erasmus's item that he takes part in? Or something like that. All right. Okay, the next thing is a table in Access works in terms of the filters pretty much exactly like the filters we've been doing in Excel. So we can also do filters the same way. You can see here if I just want to select the females, I do that. And then it tells me I've got 16 and it shows me I have a filter applied. I can also switch on totals. So there I've got the same thing, total. And then I can do things like what's the female's net worth, average 21,000. And what are the male's net worth? Let's see, 27,000. Ah, there's a gender discrepancy in the pay. Okay, it's 27 million now that I see. The females were, let's see, 21 million. Okay, net worth for these elite athletes. Okay, so in the same way that I've been working with the data in Excel, I can work with the totals over here. I've just got a little row at the bottom that I work with. I can clear the filters that I've applied already by going to each field and saying clear filter from gender. So I could do, for example, the females that are swimmers. And then it works like an and. Okay? So it's the females who are swimmers. And you'll see it actually shows me clearly it's been filtered on both of those fields. If I want to clear all the filters at once, I go to Advanced, Clear All Filters. And I can sort from the same area as well and choose Sort A to Z. I also have advanced functions with date filters, exactly like I have in Excel that we've done already. Okay, so that's filters and that's totals. Now, I need to explain to you the data types that one gets in Access. I'm going to click on fields over here so that you can see what I'm talking about. Data types is relevant so that you know the kind of data that we're working with. So the athlete's name is text. That's simple enough. Gender is text. You see data type at the top here. Date of birth is a date and time data format. Okay? Event is also short text. I'm going to skip records for now. Net worth is formatted as currency. So interesting enough, in Excel you get number, which then has a sub-format which you can then apply a currency. Whereas in Access, these are two different ones. Okay. And then start is also date and time, but then it's formatted as short time. So you'll see date of birth is date and time, and I can also format that again as a medium date or a long date, whatever format I want to apply. You'll see in Excel and in Access, it sometimes throws out these hashes for you. That means that the column isn't wide enough, so you can just drag it longer so you can see all the data. Right. Okay. Now, the one that I still wanted to show you was records. This is a very important data type that's unique to Access. It's called yes, no. Right. It basically works the same as true or false, right, that we've been using with the logical tests in Excel. So it's in IT, one talks about it as a Boolean value. There are only two options. The light is either on or it's off. Okay? Those are the two options. Okay? The ones that are ticked means they are yes. The ones that are not ticked means they are no. Okay. You can refer to this as true or So if I want everything that's yes, I can call it true, I can call it yes, or I can even call it on, or, bizarre enough, I can call it -1. I don't know why it's not 1, but it's -1 and 0. 0 for no, -1 for yes. Okay, so now that you've got the data types, we're going to look at how to do queries. Because the thing is, in a filter, I can't do things like having all the females and the swimmers. I can't do that, right? I can't get all the swimmers and the females that take part in other events. That's not possible for me to do here. I need to do a query for that. Okay, but before I carry on with that, I want to show you another thing. I see I've digressed from my notes. If you feel overwhelmed with Access and you'd rather stick with Excel, most of the stuff you can actually do in Excel. So, on this external data tab, you'll see I can export the table and the data that they've given to me to Excel. And I just follow the steps. What's the file name? Where do I want to save it? Let's go browse. I'm going to save it here. Athlete, save. What's the format? I want it in Excel workbook. Let's do weather formatting. Let's open it already once the export is finished. Okay. I never need to save the export steps because I'm not going to do this a million times. But there you go. Now I have it available for me in Excel. So if you'd rather do this and you rather want to do the things in Excel, you are more than welcome to, and you'll definitely be able to answer some of the questions, but probably not all of them. Okay. If you do want to do this and you're anticipating that you want to do this, then you're going to have to watch the advanced filters video. I will upload that on the public drive. I haven't yet. I'll do that. Okay, it's on YouTube as well. I will make a little playlist with all these videos together. All right, let's now look at the thing that I've talked about called queries. So queries are like an advanced type of filter. You make them like this. Create. You can either use Query Design or Query Wizard. I think I always teach everyone in the classes that I always use the wizard, because if there's magic, why wouldn't you use it? Because it guides you through all the steps. Okay. So, wizard, it now says I must save the table because I've been busy with it before I can create a new object. Yes, let's just save that. New query, I can do a simple query, a cross-tab query, and these other fancy ones. If you go through to the second round, which I think some of you definitely will, I will show you the other ones as well, but not for now. For now, we stick with a simple query. Okay. It always gives us the security thing. Don't worry about that. Okay. Now you'll see what it does is it asks us on which table do we want to base this query. So sometimes you'll get a database that has more than one table. Okay. So it's possible that they have, let me give you a scenario. The dentist will have a database as a whole, and he will have a table with his patients, and he will have a table with his supplier information where he buys all his stock. Okay, so you then choose which table do you want to use, and then you can choose the fields that you want to use in your query. Now let's say I want a list of the number of swimmers and all the females. Okay. So I'm going to use athlete, I'm going to use gender, and I'm going to use event. Next, here I can give the query a title. So I would typically, for the Olympiad, just recommend that you name it whatever question number it is. So if it's then, the database question is usually C, so let's say it's C3 is the question. Okay, so what it's done is, do you see on the side here, it's called a query now. And it's got a second tab that is this query. But the layout looks exactly the same. Now the place where I can go and, in brackets, filter, but this fancy filter, is in an area where they call they call the design view. Okay. If any of the IT kids want to try SQL, I don't know if you know that yet. If you know that before you've done Access, you can write it in SQL. You're more than welcome. But being a CAT teacher, I only know Design View. You can switch between this view and the Design View from here on the Home tab or at the bottom over here. Design View, bottom right. Okay. So if I switch to the Design View, you'll see what it does is it just gives me the names of these 3 fields, and I sort of need to remember what this looks like. So the question might say, how many swimmers are there as well as female athletes, or something like that. I'm not phrasing it nicely now, but my point is they're talking about swimmers. They're not saying how many people takes part in swimming. You need to know beforehand that the way you can identify the people is swimming, not swimmer. Do you get what I'm saying? They will talk about females, but you are not going to type in female. You're just going to type F in. Because in this database, they identified the females just with an F. See? Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about. If I go to my Design View, you'll see, here it shows me, the field I have is athlete, gender, and event. Which table is it based on? The athlete table. Here I can apply sorting if I wish. This one determines whether the field shows or not. You're definitely not going to need that now. In CAT, later on in the papers, you're going to need that. But this is the row that we need to work with, the criteria row. Okay. This is where we apply our criteria. So if I want the females, I need to now put an F here for gender. Female gender. The moment I clicked away, it actually applied the double quotation marks for me automatically. I will then run the query. And there it's given me all the female athletes. Okay, but I wanted all the swimmers as well as all the female athletes. So, if you're poor at spelling, the best is to actually go and copy this, so to avoid making spelling errors. Because let me just show you in terms of spelling, if I had actually written female, I would have gotten no results. See what I'm saying? Okay, so spelling is crucial here. You didn't know that when you took CAT, spelling will actually count, right? That's where it does. Okay. All right, so now what we want is we want all the swimmers and all the female athletes. Now, in this criteria row, if I put those 2 things next to each other, both of them need to be true before a record will show. That's like an and. Do you see? If I put them in opposite rows, so you'll see there's a little row called or, then either of those criteria can be true and it will return the record for me. So now I have all types of females, but the only males I have are the swimmers. Following? Okay. Right. So that's the basics of how a query works, is by putting things together on the same row, I can actually put an and if I put them on separate rows, I can use an or. That's basically how it works. Okay. I can then save that and close this query. Let's have a look at numbers and at the records. So let's say I want to find out how many of the record holders earns more than 10 million. Okay, so I'm going to say create, query wizard. I like putting the athlete name in there, but it's not really necessary to determine how many. Records, net worth. Next, next. Let's say the question number was C4. Okay. Now I'll go to design view and I'll say one will always test your criteria one after the other so that in case you made a mistake. So let's say we want all the records all the people who actually have records, hey. Now you might make a mistake and type yes like this. And it's not going to work. You see it gives you an error. It gives me an error because the word yes doesn't stand there. It's actually a data type. Yes or no is a data type. It could have been true or false. It could have been on or off. It could have been yes or no. It could have been -1 or 0. So yes, in this instance, does not require double quotation marks. Okay. So I test it first. Now I see, okay, I've got all the record holders. And who earns more than 10,000? I just put 10 million greater than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? There you go, 3. Okay, so that's basically how it works. It's extremely important that you know your operators. So the different operators one gets are, let me actually quickly, I'm going to put a Word document on here so that you can see what I'm showing. You get greater than, less than. If you want to say something is greater than or equal to, you have to use both together, but in that order. Greater than always comes before the equals to, or less than and equal to. This means not. So if I want all the events except swimming, I would put those two those two signs together. Groter as kleiner as som. Okay. All right. So those are the operators that I can use. Okay. Now, if I am referring to dates, let's say I want to see how many athletes were born before 1990. I will do it like this. I will, did I actually choose the right type now? I'm not sure. I'm just going to carry on using this one and change the stuff I've used there. So I'm going to change this to date of birth and just delete this one. Okay. So, because this date is in the full day, month, year, or year, month, day format, I have to type it in the same format. Okay? So I then also have to say less than 1990 01 01. Did I say? What did I say? Yeah. Who was born before 1990? Something like that. Okay. But one can do that. And you'll see what it does automatically is it actually puts these hashes around dates. And what that means is it actually has identified it correctly as a date. And those are the athletes that were born before 1990. Let's say we have a specific range, and I want to have all the athletes that were born between 1980 and 1985. I would then do it this way. I would say greater than 1980 01 01 and less than, I would actually say equals to, greater than and equals to, and less than and equals to 1985, the 31st of December. See, I'll actually make a copy for you guys of a summary of the kind of criteria and what it looks like. Okay, I've got a nice summary from a textbook that I can give to you. And there are my records. All right. Now, save that, close. Let me actually just quickly have a squiz here and see what else I want to show you that I think is important in terms of those basics. And then I'll show you the matric stuff that's important. Oh, these ones are very important. Almost forgot that. Okay. So, do you remember in that filter video, that lady mentioned things about those stars? Okay. Now the stars has to do with, they call it wild cards. It's about extracting data that is a partial match. Okay? So if I want to get all the athletes that whose surname or whose name actually starts with a B, for example. Not this side. Let me just create a new query. Then I'll do this. In my design view, I'll write it like this. B star. Okay, so what I'm saying is it must start with B, and the star means there can be literally anything after that. Okay, so the position of the star means anything. Alright? Ruben? You okay? The moment I click away, you'll see it's actually added the word like, and it's included the double quotation marks as needed. And there you go. I've got 2 athletes like that. If I wanted to see how many athletes' surname ends in an E, I could have done the same thing. I would have just put the star at the front. See? And we've got 4. If I put the star on both sides, it will actually get all the athletes that has any form of an E in their name. So there's like a lot more. Alright. So the position of the star is very important. And you can put more than one letter in here. It's not that it has to be just one letter. Okay? And the like thing will happen automatically. Alright. Okay. One last thing. I don't have suitable data for that, but I'm going to make it suitable for you. So let's say some of the athletes hasn't actually indicated what item they are going to take part in yet. Like that. And I want to find out who they are. I want to find out. I'm like Juffrou Steenekamp. I want to see who hasn't told me what items they're taking part in. Okay? She's on a mission sometimes, eh? So I'll say I want the athlete, the gender, and the event. Next, finish Summer. Now, to get the records that has a blank, I type in, this is weird, is null. Okay, with a double L. Is null is basically is blank. I don't know why they couldn't just have used the word blank. But okay. Is null means all the blanks. Return all the blanks to me. Okay? Is not null will return the non-blanks. Will return all the records that actually has information in them. Okay. Just wanted to show you one more thing, then we're carrying on. And actually, then I want you to try something yourself. If I have, let me add something else in here. If I have a net worth, it's not the same for zeros, hey? For a 0, you'd actually have to use numbers. You'd actually have to say greater than 0 or equal to 0 or something like that. Okay. I don't know if you've seen this. Do you see this little star with a 0 thing? That's not a record. That's the place where you would enter a new record. Okay. All right. Let's try this now that I've actually spoken you to death. Okay. I want you to open the 3 list from the data, please. And can you please tell me how many athletes make more than 100 million, goodness gracious, more than 100 million rand? How many athletes make more than 100 million rand? I don't want you to use a filter. I want you to use queries now. Okay, because you know how filters work.